All right, we welcome everybody. Official call to order of the July meeting of the Johnson County Library. So thank you and welcome all you new I think, library. Thank you. Hopefully you've learned a lot, what, this week or just today. So, all right, let's get going. Any citizens' comments that we've had or anybody want to comment? Nope. All right, members of the board, does anybody here have a comment?
I do, David. I just wanted to let everyone know what a great experience I had attending the American Library Association 2022 conference in Washington, D.C. So got to see a lot of the inner workings of libraries, got to see our staff present a wonderful session. They had great engagement. I was really proud of them. I think the thing that I learned the most was I have a lot to learn, but I brought back some books and I am eager to learn some more. So thank you very much.
Only some books.
Well, I kept some for me.
I
No,
had
4 bags.
Yeah, I was like, I had to get a new suitcase shipped to my hotel from Amazon, so you.
I drove.
Oh, even better. I could have had a U-Haul. That would have been even funner. So I'm glad that things are back to normal-ish so that we can again do those things and get to meet colleagues and see our remarkable staffers do cool things and tell everybody about how awesome our library system is, so yay for that. And of course, welcome Tricia to your very first all the way meeting, yay, squeeze. So, and of course, welcome to our neos and everybody who are joining us. Welcome aboard. Hope you have a wonderful time working for JCL. You are going to have the opportunity to work with some real rock stars and do some really cool stuff and serve a really excellent community. So welcome.
All right, very good. Moving on, so I don't really, this will probably be the first and only time I will tell you what I'm reading, but there is a purpose. And it's a good lead into our next one, which is I am finishing up the Hunger Games series that I bought from the Friends of the Library. So it did not set me back too far. So, and it may be even coming back to you. I read it a little faster than I had anticipated. So, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andra to talk. I think you're next on the board.
Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for this time to highlight recent news, accomplishments, and changes on behalf of the Friends of Johnson County Library. We've had a couple of things happen, some pretty big news since this report was written a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago. So I will take some time, get through that as quickly as I can. Well, not speaking so quickly you can't understand me. We did have a staff retreat on June 17th, and we run lean with staff, so it's a rare moment when we actually all get to be in the room together and just level set and talk about how different the organization looks and continues to adapt since pre-pandemic. And it was just a really good day to talk about our purpose, our collective sense of why, priorities, and projects coming up. And we also are taking nominations for 2 board members. A slight correction to the written report. Each of these people will serve at least one 3-year term, so there's no partial unexpired terms to fill. And they will, so you're eligible as a Friends Board member. If you do well enough, we'll keep you around for a second term. So about 6 years with those 2 terms. So, and priorities this year include identifying members who, of course, are passionate about the work of Johnson County Library and to serve as advocates and ambassadors for our organization, in turn for the library. We also are looking for fearless fundraisers to support substantial growth of our network of dues-paying members. That's part of our strategic plan, and we have tactics in place, and it's time to get on it. So, and there is, if you have someone in mind you think would be a perfect fit, you can go to friendsofjcl.org. Just scroll to the bottom of our webpage. There's a button that says, you can click that says Learn More. And you can learn more that way. So news, I accepted the resignation of our longtime Friends Bookstores manager effective July 29th, 2022. It's Becky Epperson. She and I both began as Friends Antioch Bookstore volunteers. So she's been in place to run our stores for nearly 10 years, and we will miss her very deeply, but hopefully not for long. So we are queued up to give her a call in about 6 months for volunteer opportunities. Don't miss that. Additionally, we are closing our 2 used bookstores at Antioch and Blue Valley Library branches. The Friends Board of Directors approved these closures at our July 12th meeting. And the last day of business for both stores is Saturday, July 30th, 2022. And this was, I can't understate how difficult this decision was for our board. It stings. Again, I started as an Antioch bookstore volunteer, so we have feelings about it, but you gotta not let that get in the way of decisions. And I'll quote Chris Meyer, our board president. He wraps it up, or summarizes well. The Friends have carefully monitored activity at both stores during the pandemic recovery period. Unfortunately, sales at these locations have continued to lag far behind pre-pandemic levels. So we're making this difficult decision so that the organization can focus resources toward our mission of supporting the library. A couple of things that we'll be doing following that, we are expanding our Pine Ridge pop-up sales from bi-monthly to weekly, and we will be open every Saturday, except for major holidays, effective August 6th, 2022. And we'll be expanding our hours to the public. We saw a decline when we added the members-only portion in our sales, so we are going back to expanding the time to 11:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. for anyone who would like to come in. And Friends members will receive 20% off of purchases all year long, so they don't, they'll actually get a discount whenever they'd like to come by. And just in recognition, and we know change is hard, sometimes the best changes are the most difficult. I'm personally excited to be part of the leadership team that will lead the Friends into its next chapter. With continued foresight and strategic thinking and adaptability, will remain a strong support arm of Johnson County Library for an additional 65 years and beyond. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Done? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for all you do. Stephanie, I think you're hiding back there somewhere.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephanie Stolzheimer, and I'm delighted to report on behalf of the foundation. And before I get going, I just want to thank Shanta. She's had remarkable leadership with the Friends, and Christopher Leach as well. They've had some big changes and handled it gracefully, professionally, and communicated things so well. So here's to the next future for the Friends and the book sales. What I'll report on for the foundation is I want to tell you a little bit about June grants. Library Lets Loose, some new board members, and a little reflection on our volunteers for the library. Oh gosh, so for June, we've had two really big grants that we tend to get in June. One is Kaufman Foundation grants and the Black and Veatch grant. And so what grantors like is they like you to apply for the grant, execute on the grant, report on the grant. And hopefully it all goes well and there aren't too many big changes. And I'll be darned, the library did it again. So the Kaufman Grant was for Race Project KC and online programming. And they delivered as promised for what they said they would do. And that's okay, you don't have to. Grant makers are happy to hear what didn't work and all that, but it really is gratifying to close that circle with funders. So so we reported out to Kaufman, and we also reported out to the Black and Veatch International Foundation Board. We have never reported to that level of oversight, and the makers were fabulous and reported out on the grant that they gave us. And so we'll flip it and we will apply again to both of those organizations because things are going strong. And I just want to say special thanks to all of the staff members who not only execute on the programs, but they track outputs, outcomes, dollars, and they tell the story of how these programs benefit library patrons. So these grants wouldn't happen at all without the amazing staff that makes all this happen. So Library Lets Loose, that's the next thing coming up. We are picking up steam as we head toward Saturday, September 17th, 6:30 to 10 p.m. Sponsors are signing up, food and drink vendors. We have a lot of fun scheduled for this event. And I want to point out, we're excited about a new fundraising element where for a $100 gift to the foundation, donors will be entered into a prize drawing to win a unique experience. We have 8 experiences lined up. I'll tell you about 3 of them. One is a trip to Costa Rica. So that's kind of fun. The other is a trip to Lake Tahoe. So that's pretty cool. And then the next really cool local one, it's called A Conversation with Steve Kraske and Candace Millard. So we have a couple of local rock stars who are going to come to the home of Carol and Fred Logan, and we will have a special event for them, for donors there. And so, and Andy and Erica are gonna hop into and help host. So we're very excited about the Logans helping host this very unique program. So stay tuned for the other things that you can win if you donate $100. New board members. So we have 4 new board members. We don't typically orient new board members in the middle of the year, but we could not help ourselves. So we have Pete Barth, who's from Black and Veatch, Mark Berdalski from Gardner, Lisa Jones from Shawnee, and Lisa Larson Bonnell from Shawnee as well. So we're thrilled. Our board is really packed and it's ready to go. And finally, I wanted to give a little recognition to our library volunteers. I don't know that Amber's in here. She coordinates the volunteers. And I just want to say what a difference 1 year makes. Last year, library volunteers were passing out free COVID testing kits and putting Holden materials to inform patrons about vaccinations. And in 1 year's time, the library just keeps going, and I marvel at the leadership and how volunteers continue to just take direction. So fast forward to this year, we have 463 volunteers who are busy in a variety of placements, including circulation, English language learning, and citizenship classes, Friends Bookstore, book sorting and sales, and Library Lets Loose. We're so fortunate to have these enthusiastic members of the community who answer the call under any circumstances. So that concludes my report. Are there any questions? Okay, go to libraryletsloose.org and you can see all about our special event. Thank you.
Thank you for the report, and thank you for all that you do as well. All right, moving on, we've got Fred. You've got a few things. Oh, I'm sorry. Janae, welcome back. No,
Well,
I'm just
thank
kidding.
you.
I know
Thank
you've been
you.
busy doing
Yes,
very important
I've
work,
missed
so.
being here the past couple months. The Board of County Commissioners has, of course, its meetings on Thursday mornings, but during budget season, our afternoons are full with budget meetings. So that's why I have not been here. So it's great to be back. I'm excited. And speaking of budgets, wanted to let you know that on August 22nd, I believe it's Monday, the Board of County Commissioners will be having our public hearing on the proposed 2023 budget. And we need to hear from people, hear what are your priorities, hear that you want to keep funding the library, for example. That'll be in the evening. I think it starts at 6 o'clock, and would love to have folks there to talk about your experience with the library or any other county services that are important to you. The one thing to know about the proposed budget is that I'm very pleased that the budget this year includes a 1 mil levy rollback, and that's the largest rollback, I believe, in about 20 years. Now, we have reduced the mill levy the past few years, but this one is big, a 1 mil rollback. So stay tuned for the budget. Another big thing coming up in just a couple weeks, actually, is the August 2nd election. And I hope you all are aware that there's a lot of very important issues on that ballot. And oftentimes people kind of ignore the primaries, but it's really important to get out and vote. Particularly in regard to Johnson County, we have a four-way primary for the Board of County Commission's chair position. Many of you are aware that Ed Eilert has been our county chair for the past, I think it's been 12 years, Fred? And he is retiring, well-deserved. And there are 4 people vying to take that position. So no matter what happens, we will have a new county chair. And I'd encourage everybody who wants to know more about those candidates to go to the, it's jocovotes.org, I believe is the website. It's a nonpartisan website done by the Johnson County Chambers of Commerce. So I'd encourage you to make sure before you go, you know what's on the ballot and you have done your research. It's very important. And then I wanted to also mention, I'm sure most of you have seen the very, very big news for Johnson County that the Panasonic plant will be coming to DeSoto. This is a $4 billion investment in Kansas. It's a major game changer for our county, and very, very excited that we won out over Oklahoma, and so there'll be a lot more news coming. But for those of you who are familiar with the Sunflower Army ammunition plant, I have to say, I never thought in my lifetime I would see something happen there. Now, I didn't. So I'm very excited about that. And then finally, I always have to say what I'm reading. I've always been a fan, this is my light summer reading, but of Michael Connelly, who writes a lot of detective murder mystery stories. And I've always loved his character, Detective Harry or Hieronymus Bosch. And so this is one of his more recent books, but I'm also excited because on, I think it's Netflix, there's a series now called Bosch, and if you haven't watched it, it's really good, but you can also read the books. So that's my advertisement for books today. Any questions or thoughts?
No, but I do have a random aside that Michael
Yes.
Connolly, the author of the
Yes.
Harry Bosch books, does T-shirts that raise money for the families of fallen officers, and it has Harry's tagline, which is either everyone counts or no one counts. And so
Cool.
the money for that goes to those funds, especially kind of for education for fallen officers' kids. And I have one of them.
Oh,
And
cool.
I get a lot of comments, one, just because the tagline is super cool, but also there are like 30 odd books and he has new characters, and then Lincoln Lawyer is connected. And so like there's this whole world, but they're fantastic. And it reminds me of the LA I grew up in the 80s, which is kind of weird, but fantastic. But I love the
Yes.
organization that
Thank you
does
for
that, so
saying that.
it's
Now I know
very
what,
cool.
I'm gonna go home and order one of those shirts. That's cool. Thank you. And actually, I do have now a book, I finished it to donate to the Friends of the Library. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. Janae? Now we're on to Fred, so
Okay.
jump the gun.
Thank you. I'm going to report to you on three items. First, I've been asked to comment on the Public Building Commission bond sales and lease agreement. And this is the means by which the library funds major capital improvements. It's not the only alternative that it has, but it has proven to be an outstanding alternative. So let me start by saying that this building was acquired through a vote of Johnson County voters in 1992. The library had the authority to place a bond issue on the ballot, and with the approval of the Board of County Commissioners, went on the ballot and was pretty easily passed. But the legislature, working with our people and with other urban areas like this, created a public building commission opportunity. And the Board of County Commissioners sits at the Public Building Commission and then can issue bonds for capital improvements. And it's very flexible, and it has proven to be a really good tool for major capital improvements in this county. So our major capital improvements for the last, I guess, 30 years now have been through the Public Building Commission process. And the way that works is that there's a lease agreement between the Public Building Commission and the library. And the library, of course, retains ownership, and once the bonds are paid off, then there's, all 13 of the 14 library facilities are under the name of the Board of Directors of the Johnson County Library. Edgerton is a lease, so it doesn't apply there. But it's proven to be a very, very effective financing tool. So any questions about the Public Building Commission? So let me talk about the second item, and that is on petitioning zones. You have two proposed changes to library regulations, because by regulation, the library board approves areas where people who want to get out and protest or have their voices heard, carry signs, demonstrate, whatever, where they can do that. The problem is that we have some facilities now where it might be very difficult to accommodate that, but only on election days. And the reason is that the state statute, KSA 25-2430, actually specifies the amount of distance there must be between any petitioners and the booths, the voting area. And we have a couple of facilities where that may, I want to emphasize may, be a challenge. Some of those that I'll just say for an example, like a Lenexa City Center, I don't want to say it can't be done, it just may be more challenging. So on election days, we may just have to say, on these days, we're not going to be able to accommodate it, or we're going to move you from the area where you might normally protest or carry signs into a different area. So that's what that does. Question?
Does that apply only to the voting booths? Because I noticed that the ballot box was in front, which is very close to our petition area. Does that apply to the
No,
ballot boxes
I
at
think
all?
I think it applies to the voting area,
Okay,
not that box.
okay, thank you.
Yep, and on the actual election days when you've got people coming, and I think it's very clear the state statute takes precedence over our regulation, and that's why we're recommending this change in here to make our regulation clear that if it can't be accommodated or if it needs to be moved just on that day, the library then would have the authority to do that. So that, I think, covers that. The last item I was going to mention is something that is going to come up for when you vote this evening on the Miriam property addendum. We received the title report after the board packet was done on Friday, and we saw in there that the title insurance company wanted to see a board resolution. So what we have done is we have prepared, and I emailed to you, and then you have in front of you the resolution by which the board would actually approve the property conveyance agreement. And the reason that we've done that is to meet the requirements of the title insurance company, which we didn't have until after the board packet had been done. I want to emphasize, this is still, it's like a motion to approve the agreement, it's just called a resolution. And in the resolution, we actually specify who can sign future documents, which after these initial documents will be signed by our board chair, but then in the future, we'll have some just construction documents or whatever. Tricia, as county librarian, will be able to execute those. So I wanted to explain why we're doing the resolution. It's because of the title commitment that we received, but the net effect is the same. You're going to be voting, by approving the resolution, you approve the agreement. So any questions about that? Okay, thank you. That's my report.
I just realized I had misspoke. The website, speaking of elections, the website that I had referred to is actually votejoco.com, votejoco.com. Thank you.
All right, Trish, you're up.
Thank you. First, I'll have Dave, our finance director, join us at the podium.
Thank you, Tricia. Good afternoon, board. I'm going to direct you to page 8 of your library board packet. This is the total revenue report as of the end of May 2022. So we're about 42% of the way through the year. As of the end of May, we had collected a little over 23.8 million, which is about a little over 54% of what we anticipate to collect for the year. It's in line with what was collected in terms of percentages, which was around 54% last year. So we're tracking very, very steadily to what was done last year. And then to date, and this includes our collections encumbrances, we've spent a little over 20.7 million, which is 47%. But this, I want to remind you guys, it includes our collections encumbrances, which if you factored those out, takes us under the 42%. We're closer to 41%. And then we do have some transfers that were made early in the year that, if prorated, we're tracking well under where we should be from an expenditure standpoint. So things are going really well, and it's looking good as of the end of May. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And now we'll have our statistics, Adam, and then one of our branch managers, Anna, is joining him as well.
Hello, I'm Adam Wathen, Associate Director for System-Wide Services here at the library. and I'm here to give a monthly statistical report, and I'm joined by Anna Madrigal. Anna is a branch manager at the Shawnee and Cedar Row branches, and she's going to give you information about our branch statistics. And you can start. I have to apologize about this slide, that I think the published slide shows that 3-year digital usage trend, it bottoms out in May, but I pulled that number from a different slot, and I apologize, it's incorrect. And so you can rest assured that that did not happen, and that that Hope Harms emailed me in panic and said, "Why did this is wrong? This is wrong." So I give credit to her for helping me solve that problem. You can see that 3-year physical circulation trend on this slide paces as expected with previous year, and then with 3-year digital use, we're pacing along with the previous year. I'll remind you that in May, we had Access 360, and we stopped taking holds in Access 360. And so that is actually a really good number, because we had actually stemmed the circulation in Access 360. And then we have now Libby. And I'm excited that next month we'll see our first Libby statistics, and we'll see how that is going. On the next slide, you'll see our visitation trend, and we continue to pace above last year, and with recovery from the pandemic, and I hope to see that also increase as we see our physical programming return to branches, and hopefully we are seeing more patrons returning to our branches along with that. Do you have any questions about the general statistics before we step into branches? Thank you. And here's Anna.
Afternoon. I'm Anna Madrigal, branch manager of Shawnee and Cedar Row branches of the library. And this month I'll be presenting our annual snapshot of trends in branch services. So to kick us off, this first slide shows us a 4-year trend of circulation by branch. This includes the years of 2018 through 2021. These statistics are generally dependent on the size of a branch and the size of its collection. You can see a slight downtrend at most branches in 2019, with a severe downturn in 2020. The 2018 opening of Monticello as a new branch in the Western Shawnee region includes both additional circulation from new patrons, as well as circulation from patrons who moved from using other branches to using Monticello. You can see that especially in our 2019 circulation at the Shawnee branch. Shawnee dropped more than other branches in 2018 and 2019 as Monticello was getting established. This slide also contextualizes our community branches of DeSoto, Edgerton, and Spring Hill. And interestingly, Cedar Row, that has a significantly higher circulation in comparison. Slide, please. This slide shows us annual visits by branch. You can see that 2020 is significantly down from previous years, while 2021, which you see here in blue, saw an increase in visitation at most branches. One outlier in 2021 was Central Resource Library, which saw a decrease in visits due to the central building upgrade. Slide, please. In this next chart, we have added the circulations and visitations together and divided by the staffing levels at each branch to arrive at a comparative number of demand versus labor. That black line across the center, which is set at about 36,000, is the average of this calculation. So again, that calculation is circulation plus visitation and then divided by the staffing levels at each branch across 4 years from 2018 to 2021. Those branches with bars above the line show that they experience more circulations per staff member than the branches with the bars below the line. 2020 is obviously problematic in that our circulation was significantly down. Every branch landed below the line, indicating that all branches had a higher staff allocation per circulation than normal. Additionally, we experienced the closure of the collection at Central during the central building upgrade in 2021. Hence why that bar is reflecting quite low there. It's also significant to keep in mind that this is not just a comparison of materials handling staff at each branch, but the number includes all branch staff, so management, information services, and circulation staff. Slide, please. This is a new set of data that begins to take a look at trends in our curbside service, which began rolling out at select branches in early 2021. One thing to note on this chart is that the blue bars correspond to total curbside visits for the year, while the yellow line shows the percentage of the full circulation made up by those curbside visits. You'll see that Cedar Row had an impressive 12% of their annual circulation serviced through curbside last year, due to the branch being closed for over 2 months across April, May, and June for HVAC updates. Slide, please. Here we see another new set of data that looks at drive-through visits over the last 3 years. You'll notice that Blue Valley has always had a very robust active drive-through service point, while Monticello has seen usage increase as more patrons begin using that location as their home library. You'll also see in 2020, that year brought a heavy increase in drive-through usage across the board as we gradually reopened our services during the pandemic. Contactless options of holds pickup remained popular in 2021. And in 2022, we added yet another drive-through service point here at Central, which we look forward to reporting on in the future. Slide, please. Here on the left, we see a snapshot of active cardholders that have been active within the last 3 years. We are able to see that Blue Valley has a very high number of active users, for example. Over the pandemic, we saw a decline in users overall, but in 2021, we have maintained. In 2019, we did do a cleanup of data in the system that might explain that unusual spike at Central that year. On the right, we look at our active users in relation to the total population of Johnson County. And this one is a bit of an estimation, as our active users do include folks from outside of the county. A good example is Cedar Row in the northeast corner that draws patrons from both Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. Another thing to keep in mind is that some households contain parents and children with everybody having a card, which is really great. But when looking at that chart, the 36% in blue is probably more like 28% when adjusted for active households. In the future, we do intend to dig deeper into these populations to get a better sense of user demographics of both users and non-users in the community. On a related note, when we give our external communications report later this year, you'll see some of those efforts that we've been doing to reach new users. Slide, please. The next 2 charts show computer usage in our branches. The chart on the left is the average number of computer sessions per visitor at each branch. You can see that Central expects the most computer use, with about 1 use in every 4 visits, or about 25% of visits there include computer usage. We also see higher computer use, around 15% at Antioch, DeSoto, and Cedar Row, and then between 5 and 10% computer use at all other branches. The chart on the right shows our average number of sessions per computer. In 2020, the number of computers was cut in half due to our social distancing requirements. This made 2020 comparable to previous years, though, which really emphasizes the importance of computer and internet access in our communities. Let's see. Oh, sorry. The large spike in Central in 2020 indicates as well that when we closed the collection, we also created access to just 9 computers here as a part of Little Central, and those were heavily utilized. This year in 2022, we should see that usage realign with the rest of that chart. Slide, please. Finally, one new set of data that we're reporting on looks at total meeting room bookings over 3 years by branch. Pre-pandemic usage was high in 2019, with 2020 bringing a close to those meeting rooms until they reopened for use mid-year in 2021. While most branches immediately saw an uptick in usage, the construction at Central kept the meeting rooms closed, thus the decrease in usage displayed there. We should continue to see usage rise across this year as more community groups return to in-person meetings. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question about the users. You said that Central cleaned up their user data. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, I think I'll have to answer this. We generally keep 3 years of patron use. And so the patrons, we consider that a current patron. And so patrons who have lapsed prior to that may have still been on the rolls and still being counted in those numbers. And so basically what we did was we purged our catalog rolls of those patron names who hadn't been in to use our services in over 3 years. And that includes computer use, it includes holds, it includes meeting room bookings, any of those services. And so if they have a library card and they were connected to any of those services, then and had used those services within 3 years, we counted them. But if not, we hadn't. And we may have lapsed on purging those roles regularly. And I think that that's what we caught up on. Did that make sense?
Yes, it makes total sense. Thank you. Did you only do that for Central, or did you do that across
No,
the library system?
We did that across the library system, but Central really does have a lot of cards that aren't also patron cards that we have used in the past, like test cards and cards for the back of the house and things like that. And there may have been some of those that were counted as well, so it probably impacted Central more heavily than others because it's where we did most of our work in terms of circulation and testing of the CERSI system and with all of those accounts. Yeah.
So Adam, if somebody downloaded an ebook, are they counted as an active user?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you also had a question, Kelly, last month about whether or not our drive-in or drive-through use counts in our circulation use, and it does. And it has as the entire time. You're welcome.
Thank you. I had a resident ask me the other day, and I'm going to ask the two of you, Adam and Anna, when will story times be fully back in person? That was, and maybe you could also comment on what service, are there still services that aren't fully back in person yet?
Yes, we've been pacing ourselves in returning to full programming, and part of that is that we're maintaining online programming, and so the staffing levels to do both of those services have to be spread across both of those service lines because they take different levels of capacity. And so we actually started our online or our in-person story times this week, and I hope you did see it on Facebook. Lovely pictures, and it's exciting to have those story times back online. And we plan to continue to roll out different in-person programs throughout the summer and into the fall. And we're doing that at a pace. So we're trying to be strategic about how we do that, and we're trying to do that in a sustainable way that allows us to ramp those things back up and apply appropriate staff labor to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll just comment briefly that we will be posting the in-person storytime announcements in August on our website and in our fall guide, which will be released in early August as well. So more to come.
I've got a question. So on the meeting rooms, I know one of the topics as we get into Blue Valley, because I think that's one that's, I think they've only got 2 meeting rooms, correct, or 3?
Yeah, they have 3 meeting rooms. 2 of them are really small study rooms, and then 1 of them is a large meeting room.
I think probably at some point, especially as we try to figure out where to go as far as Blue Valley or Prairie Village, how active as far as percentage that they're used. Because I think that's one of the hot topics on doing a Blue Valley is they need more meeting rooms, in my understanding.
Yeah,
Not just on size, but.
We've been watching that in terms of all of the different building projects and thinking about meeting room use, that many of our buildings were not built with meeting rooms in mind originally, and so Antioch has very few, Cedar Row has very few, some of the older buildings don't have a lot of meeting rooms, and even Blue Valley only has those 3 meeting rooms. And so we've seen a trend toward that, and you can see that we added meeting rooms in terms of the central building upgrade, and we are intending to continue that trend and make sure that there's meeting room access. We see it as a really valuable service for patrons, and that's on our radar to make sure that we assess that and add those in any of the building projects that we do.
This may not be you, but as far as meeting rooms, I think it's nice. You can book them online, but you can't book them within 24 hours.
Yeah.
correct. Is that, I mean, is there any talk about doing that? I know you probably can't do it with all of the libraries yet, but as we get more,
Yeah, we tried to find a sweet spot in terms of booking because what happens is people come into the library and they look for an open meeting room.
Right.
And if you allow for somebody at home to book that space, they may be able to book it, but we can't represent it necessarily at all of our branches as it's been booked. And so we end up with conflicts where somebody came into a meeting room that they thought was unbooked, but somebody shows up from online and books it. And so we leave that 24-hour window so that we can publish all the people who did book the room, and then those people who didn't can come in and see if there is a meeting room open. And so we're trying to cater to both crowds where somebody who is in the building can utilize the meeting rooms that haven't been booked. So it's
And
a
that's
conundrum
very
for us.
important. I would hope you would continue with that practice.
Okay, thank you.
Is that a technology issue that just some things aren't digital?
Yeah,
Whereas others, because I know some of them, you've got a little tablet or something that has that. And so is that just
Yeah.
a restriction on technology?
I think that
at the
there
moment?
are technology solutions that would allow us to have different practice, but they're not consistent across all of our branches yet. And so, so we've deferred to sort of the lowest common denominator of technology. And so at some of our branches, we may be able to allow that, but we wouldn't be able to equitably allow that at all of our branches. So you're right, that there may be technology solutions that could solve that for us. And we continue to look into those as well.
but does it make sense to have it even at the ones that can allow the technology and then you still, you know, and at some point we upgrade. Obviously, we don't need to upgrade Antioch because we're building a new one, and in the same way with maybe Corinth and or Blue Valley, but some of the other ones like a Cedar Row or,
Yeah.
I'm not sure which ones have digital and which ones don't off the top
We'll
of my
continue
head.
to look into that, and we'll talk to our IT folks and then also our branch folks to talk about that again.
Danae, you had a question?
Yes, following up on your comment about Blue Valley, I just had a question on slide 18, under visits by branch. Am I reading this correctly, that in 2021, Blue Valley and Oak Park both had the highest number of visits, and they were about the same, if
I
I'm
think
reading
you are
that
reading that
correctly.
correctly. And of course, the Oak Park visits spiked because Central wasn't available, and Central and Oak Park are very close together. I think the Blue Valley visits are recovering. You can see that prior to the pandemic, Blue Valley visits were already very high. But at Oak Park, you can see that recovery is much faster, and it's likely due to Central not having the services that Oak Park would. So we saw a lot of people transfer their holds from Central to Oak Park, for instance, and because they can browse collection there, while at Central we couldn't.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Thank you
You're welcome.
for that explanation.
I think that's all the questions, so.
Thank you, Adam and Anna and Dave. Scott Syme will join us now.
Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Syme, Project Coordinator for the library. Today I'll give you I'll start with Antioch. So on the Antioch replacement project, next slide. I've got a few updates for you, and then I'll go to next steps and then take a look at the timeline. So as far as updates, our design process continues. We've moved into the final phase of design, which is construction documents. During this phase, final plans are produced for bidding and construction. Next one, Fred talked a little bit about this already. We do have a few items on your action agenda tonight. We've been working closely with the City of Miriam staff to add and refine language to these agreements relating to evolutions in the mostly exterior design in the campus. And Fred talked about the policies too, so I don't need to talk about that too much. And Tricia will bring that up later on in the agenda. Okay, next steps. Next slide, there we go. So we have a few action items for you related to Antioch. Let's see, 2 of them are about the agreements we talked about. The other is an old business item related to naming the building. After the library board acts on the 2 legal agreement items, those would go on to the City of Miriam for approval in late July, and then on to the Board of County Commissioners for ratification. We're looking at August for that right this minute. And then after the approvals, we would work with the city to go ahead and transfer the property We're anticipating, as Fred mentioned, using the PBC to sell bonds for the project later this year. Next slide. Here's a look at our timeline. No changes since last time. Any questions on Antioch replacement? Okay, thanks. Next up is DeSoto, Spring Hill, and Edgerton renewal study. Next slide, please. So up first, there are a few different topics that I kind of lumped all together last month, and I think it's beneficial if we give those a little bit of air between them. So I'll give a little bit more detail on each one of these over the next few slides. Those are the conceptual design, the hours evaluation, and then our thoughts on this expanded patron access concept. So I'll talk a little bit through those and then I'll give some next steps. Next slide. So for the conceptual design, we're working with Clark and Innerson to develop conceptual designs and budgets based on public feedback and then our administration prioritization. We're also making plans to talk with those 3 cities to keep them informed of our progress. We are still looking at design presentation to the library board in August, so next month. And then we'll also begin to know more from the architect about durations of design development and construction for those as we get a little bit further along. And then we'll be able to slot those into our overall timeline. Okay, next slide. Up next, hours evaluation. So the last change to library hours was approved in early 2015. When that study took place in 2014-15, we didn't need to make any changes to these 3 locations' hours, so those have been consistent and serving the public well for quite a while out there. Something else to mention is we are wanting to match library staffing at these 3 locations with the kind of busiest demand periods. So when the patrons want to be there, we want to be there with our staff. And then lastly, on this one, as each project occurs, we want to make sure that we're looking at those hours and fine-tuning them with what the community needs.
Scott?
Yeah.
How do you know if patrons would like to use different hours if you're studying the usage within the hours that it's open?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't know that we necessarily need or want to study the hours that were already open. We want to talk with the community about when they want to use the library.
And so is that what you do? You just talk to the community? I mean, do you, and surveys, that type of thing?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it's been quite a while since we've done one, so we'll have to look back and see how we did it then, if there's any ways that we need to improve it this time around.
In 2015, part of our survey was noting before we opened, how many people were waiting outside as a measure of like, okay, if we were open an hour earlier, they wouldn't be waiting. And then at the end of the day, how many people were still there to gauge if we closed earlier, that they would have had to have kind of wrapped up their work a little bit earlier. So that's one way we looked at it, in addition to conversations, surveys with people.
And just another question.
Yeah.
With the announcement by the state about the $4 billion, $40 billion project, does that change the approach and a possibility of how you're looking at the DeSoto community?
That is a good question. We were just talking about that in an earlier meeting today, and I think this is just my opinion. It'll take a little while for that facility to get built, so I think that I don't know that it'll change anything immediate that we're planning. Maybe as we see the community demographics, population booms start to change over time, then we definitely want to keep connected to that.
I only bring this up because that I know that there have been land purchases already in anticipation of this.
Oh, sure, good point.
No, I agree I was thinking the same thing. I know it's way too early to make a decision on it, but I think it's not early to be thinking about it. When is the earliest that the plant will be up and running? Do you know, Janae? No. And maybe that determines on how much do we delay some spending now until we have more certainty?
I think it's a little sooner than we would be ready for. I think you're right, Jen. I think it's 2028.
Yeah.
It's either 26 or 28. I can't remember, but it's soon.
I mean, depending on the projects that we're doing and the cost, it may be worthwhile to delay I don't know, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now that maybe you delay a year until there's more information before we spend $500,000 on, something that we should have spent $1 million or $2 million, because at some point, there's gonna be some population, not all, 4,000 people will move there, but certainly some, right? And I don't know at what population changes, if it's.
I don't know that DeSoto knows or that the state knows either. You're absolutely right, but I do want to make sure that we are taking this into consideration as we move forward with these conversations.
I mean, if it's 100, if DeSoto goes up by 100 residents, I don't think that's gonna affect. If it goes up by, at what point of population change does it start affecting, when we need to, I don't know, expand or do something different? I don't know. I think it's just worth thinking about.
I would suggest that we're not alone in trying to make these decisions. I'm sure the schools and other kinds of services in DeSoto are thinking about this too. And there may be an opportunity at some point to bring all those concerns together for planning purposes. But I think it's a very, very good point.
I guess, Trish, and you and I have a DeSoto meeting, or I don't know who else is coming, but a week, next week? So it could be I don't know. Right, good timing,
I
so.
volunteered to work with this group. Do you not need me to do that? Because I haven't gotten any, notice of discussions or meetings or anything like that.
Right. So I've got maybe a couple of things to mention. So the way that we have done building project liaisons in the past is that we don't, the liaisons don't start until we're in design and construction. So it's a little too early for design and construction on these yet. That's why I haven't reached out to you. The other piece to mention about the DeSoto battery plant, which is awesome news, is we have been thinking about these projects, these 3 locations, as a phased or sequential timeline. So I think that's a really good suggestion that maybe we just don't start first with DeSoto.
Mitra, is that DeSoto your district?
It is, and I would say don't leave them off because that branch needs some serious reviewing. And waiting until 2028 may not be the best option for that community. So please don't take that approach.
So we're meeting with DeSoto next week, as in, I say we, it's Tricia and whoever, 2 weeks, okay. And I'm invited as the chair, but I think as your district and somebody who is gonna be the liaison for that. Is that
If it's a
something you would
public
like
hearing,
to?
I'd probably go anyways.
It's not a public hearing.
Oh, then yes, I would like to go.
That's it that I know on that.
Okay, thanks. Okay, on to this last bit. On this one is expanded patron access concept. So I talked a little bit about this, or there was, I think, some good discussion about this last month. It is a new service model that we're interested in exploring to supplement staffed hours. Other libraries across the U.S. are piloting this concept. We anticipate bringing information at a future board meeting about kind of what the industry is doing. There are other businesses in this space too, gyms, ATMs, grocery stores, college libraries. Our kind of next step on this is to assign a team to explore and vet this potential new service, to make sure we understand the resources that we need and the risks before we jump into it. Okay, next slide. So a little bit about next steps. We'll bring conceptual designs for all 3 of these locations in August. And then as far as future, past that, we've got library trends that we'll bring to the library board. We'll put that team together to kind of vet that new service model. And then as we go with each of these locations, we'd be revisiting the hours. And that's it for me on this one. Any other discussion, questions? Okay. Last piece is capital improvement, capital replacement timelines. Next slide. So what you're seeing here is our kind of big building projects. No change on this one since the last time you saw it. And next slide. This one has changed a bit. So no changes to Cedar Row. We're still anticipating that work beginning in mid-August. We're working with the contractor now and expect to bring a closure recommendation to the library board probably next month. And then Oak Park and Shawnee, because of what we're seeing or what our facilities partners are seeing for material lead time, we're showing that work slipping or sliding into 23 potentially, and we'll keep you updated as we get further along with those. That concludes my report. Any other questions, comments? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Scott. We'll transition to Jen Munkin, who's the interim deputy county librarian, and she'll give us the strategic plan update from the past trimester.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Tricia said, I'm Jennifer Munkin, the interim county deputy county librarian. As a reminder, we provide a triannual update of our progress on our current strategic plan for you all. Next slide, please. As a reminder, here's the structure of our strategic plan. We have 5 key performance areas: education, community, convenience, communication, and operations. I will provide you an update in each of these areas with some examples of the work that's been going on. Overall, our staff has been extremely busy with lots of work and lots of changes. We applaud the work of all of our library staff and their dedication to making the library great. I apologize in advance for any omissions or discrepancies that I tried to do my fact checking, but wanted to make sure I say that out loud. Next slide, please. The education KPI strives to create inclusive and welcoming environments that spark curiosity and learning as its vision statement. Here are several examples of the work that fall under this KPI. We successfully transitioned from Access 360 to Libby, so all of the pre-work for that happened in the first trimester. I hope you all found it to be a seamless process. Staff attended conferences in person and virtually and brought back lots of ideas and continued proof that JCL is as innovative a library as any other in the country. Staff have continued to work on program planning and transitioning some of those programs back to in-person. Our makerspace reopened to the public, which we're very excited about. We hosted our annual Teen Zine reception this year. Unfortunately, not back in person yet. This is a project that is run by teens, and all contributions are teen work: art, poetry, stories, and photography. And I believe you'll hear a little bit more about this in just a few minutes from our teen librarian, Kate McNair. We have continued to host other programs virtually, including some of these listed: legislative coffees, Martin Luther King lecture, Race Project, KC programs. Our Reader's Advisory Librarian and his team hosted several training sessions for most of our staff related to Reader's Advisory best practices. This includes best practices for posting reading lists, blog entries, and book reviews. Next slide, please. Community is our next one. Our strategic vision is to offer neutral spaces and opportunities where all voices are equal and connections are forged. We had several staff prep for a presentation at the American Library Annual Conference this year. That prep happened in the first trimester, while the actual presentation was in the second trimester, but I wanted to mention it because they did an awesome job. Staff implemented a preferred name category when patrons register for new library cards. This category allows a patron to add a preferred name if it is different than their given name. Of course, as you are aware, a big project came to conclusion this first trimester as we reopened Central. Staff spent countless hours getting the building ready to reopen, including getting all of the computers installed, new technology going, a new key card access system, shelf reading the entire collection, and many more things I'm forgetting right now. Friends started their pop-up sales at their Pine Ridge Center, as Shanta mentioned. The sales have been hugely successful, and the staff there were able to make great improvements to the space to make it an even better patron experience. There were a couple of foundation events this first trimester, including Speaker Arthur Muir, who was the oldest American to reach the summit of Mount Everest at the age of 75. He encouraged the audience to strive for their dreams no matter their age. These events are designed to reward donors and create engagement. And finally, as Stephanie mentioned, our volunteer coordinator has been very busy. She added 19 new volunteers in the first trimester, which we're really excited about. Next slide, please. For convenience, we strive to deliver services and materials how, when, and where patrons want. Our facilities crew has been working very hard despite all of the supply chain issues to stay on track with maintenance and updating. The Antioch design, as you heard from Scott, is just about complete and will move into its next phase soon. I wanted to point out the usage of our drive-thrus and curbside services, as Anna did. These numbers are huge for the first trimester. And I also wanted to point out the sheer volume of items that our staff shelved in the first trimester. Over 1.5 million items. That is a lot of books to touch. We continue to do the study on the DeSoto, Edgerton, and Spring Hill refresh, as you just heard, and we'll bring design options to you next month. Select staff have been working on the MOU with Olathe to bring it up to date and to be more accurate. We are partnering with the Department of Health and Environment to provide free COVID test kits to the public. All the branches now have a supply as they last. It has been very popular for our patrons and me. I've used it a lot lately. Our interlibrary loan department worked on upgrading software and reviewing procedures. These behind-the-scenes activities that you don't often hear about always help us to provide a better experience for our patrons ultimately. Staff have been working on a process and procedures to reinstate book donations for our patrons. We are working with facilities to transport these items and have opened up 7 locations to date. The goal is to have all locations able to accept donations by the end of the year. Next slide, please. The strategic vision for communication is to listen and to share information with all, building strong connections and relationships. Our CX team launched the Discover Your Library campaign. This included those great t-shirts you all should have received, along with some great new library cards to choose from for new patrons. The summer guide, listing all of our activities and other communication about the library, was mailed to 90,000 households. We were hoping to do more than double that to reach the entire county, but the provider ran out of paper. Supply chain issues, getting us everywhere. Typically, we only send out about 2,500 guides in a quarter or trimester. So that's a huge, huge increase that we wanted to try to saturate as much as possible. IT and web folks have been working on refreshing the navigation of the website. We are getting ready to launch Patron Point, which is another communication tool designed to meet patrons where they are with information that is relevant to them when they need it. And of course, last but not least, our internal communication team has been working tirelessly to communicate to staff about all the projects that have been going on. Next slide, please. Finally, our operations vision is that all library staff collaborate and coordinate to create efficient procedures and processes that provide exceptional customer service. Lots of our work falls under this KPI, but here are some of the highlights. Dave Rotney and the admin staff, along with other managers, created a final budget for fiscal year 2023. It was recently presented to the BOCC. We are working on upgrading all of our key card access systems and converting cameras to a different vendor. This last trimester, we worked on a plan to move this forward, including asking for the use of reserves to create a project account to complete this work in the next 3 years. Cybersecurity, as you heard from Michelle Beasley last month, is something we are continuously working on. This last trimester, we did a refresher training with staff. A group of managers has been working on a project to make our merit assignment process go smoother at the end of the year and make this a more interactive process for all of our staff. Assistant branch managers have been working on a variety of projects, including providing a workshop for staff to practice their interviewing skills. They also had a working retreat. Disk buffers were introduced at many branches. This will allow staff to clean DVDs and audio CDs on site rather than sending them into tech services, ultimately providing a much better service for our patrons. A project team is working on upgrading our intranet site, moving to a new platform. Excuse me. Managers have been working on revising or reaffirming their strategic plan goals for our next plan. And finally, admin has been working on a staff and structure reorganization project. We are looking to better align our resources and even out some of our management responsibilities. Excuse me. That is the end of my presentation. Can I answer any questions for you tonight?
Thank you very much, Jen. So I'd like to update the board on the meeting that we had with the City of Prairie Village several weeks ago. Overall, it was a very good meeting. The chair joined us, the library board chair, Commissioner Fast joined us, as well as the assistant county manager. The mayor from the city was there, as well as the city manager and two of their city council meeting and several library folks. And everyone was in agreement that we all want a new building in Prairie Village, so that was a great way to start the meeting. There are several considerations as far as the site, the cost of land, or a donation of land, or if we purchase land. And then the other consideration for the board that will come in October at your retreat is prioritizing the remaining projects. Prairie Village is very interested and enthusiastic in starting that Corinth project quickly. And we also have Overland Park that we've been working with. So there are some decisions ahead. Currently, as you've seen on some of the slides that Scott shows you, we have a study planned for 2024 for Corinth, and then a few years, about 2 years out from that, a building. So that priority is based on how you all prioritize that list of comprehensive library master plan projects from last year. So that's your prerogative to reorder or reprioritize as that comes up in the fall.
Tricia, before you go on,
yes.
because this is being presented as an either-or choice, can you explain why it isn't a both-and?
It isn't a both and today because doing two projects at a time has a lot of risks. We experienced two projects, not exactly at the same time, but pretty close to each other with Monticello and Lenexa. So we have a sense of how the capacity that took from library staff and from our county facilities partners. We also enjoy building a building and then learning lessons from that construction architect moving in. With Monticello and Lenexa, they were being planned so close together and constructed that we didn't really, weren't able to really learn from that. We were able to implement some of that learning in other buildings, Central, and we'll do that with Antioch. If it's the desire of the board to do both of those projects at the same time, that would be a discussion of staffing and probably some funding concerns. I'm a little bit looking at Dave. There would be some financial things that we might have to discuss, move around, and change our priorities in. So I'm a little bit looking at everybody. I'm getting head nods for all that correct answers.
I know that as we discuss this, it's just that we have so many new board members who I think I may have literally be the only person who was in that conversation initially
Several
almost
years ago.
4 years ago. And so since we have elected officials, we have cities that are also going to be a part of this, that there are a great many considerations that I just want to make sure that basically everybody is aware of, that it isn't an arbitrary decision to have to prioritize, but very much a pragmatic one, that if we were going to tack our sails in a different direction, that there would be a lot required in order to do that at the same time. And there would be some fairly significant budgetary implications, not just because we would need FTEs for more staff to actually run the projects, but also the learning curve and the overall organizational impetus it would take to get that done, just so that everybody is very much clear it isn't a, well, we just can't be bothered to do it, but that there are very real considerations at play.
Yes. So as far as the meeting with Prairie Village, we all confirmed our interest in redoing that building, building a new one. The city's next steps, they are working on redoing a survey with their community. They put one out in 2019 that included information about the city and the library and the YMCA. They wanted to redo that survey since it's been 2+ years. So they'll send that out probably the end of this month. It will not have library questions on it. The feedback from the community in 2019 was very positive about the library, so they did not feel they needed to re-ask any of those questions, that they really have that, that information. So that will be going out, or it's coming to their meeting next week, and then I assume the survey will be sent out as citizens in the next couple weeks after
Are they
that.
still very much looking at a partnership with the YMCA for this, or is this looking that there has been a shift in their thinking about accomplishing this goal?
I think they're open to a partnership with the YMCA, and I think they're going in it with clear eyes that that may not, as much as they want that, it may not turn out.
Okay.
So I think their dream scenario would probably be lots of different partners involved in that, and the reality that it may not turn out that way.
Okay.
As I mentioned, they're very excited to get this project started. We explained some of our concerns and considerations that we would need to make, including the board reprioritizing the list. And we did offer that the City of Prairie Village could come to the library board meeting and present to inform you all before your retreat in October, to fill in some of that. David had a chance to hear the specifics, but I thought that might be a nice way. They may also have the results of their survey back, which may give them a little bit more direction, or at least have a sense of what their citizens are concerned about and excited about. So the next steps for both groups are, there is a second phase of the memorandum of understanding that that Fred drafted, and so that's with the city right now, if they're, want to move forward with that. And then we await the news of their survey, what the results are, and then the prioritization discussion at your fall retreat. So those are some of the next pieces on Corinth with the City of Prairie Village. Fred was there. Do you have anything to add from that meeting? And David?
The only thing I'll really add is, I guess the couple good news is we've got 2 communities that want us, rather than, 2 communities that don't, right? I mean, and that's what I think, we're having all this back and forth discussion, but it was easy to lose sight of, we both want this to happen. It's more the when, not if. And I think, of course, you had some that wanted us, as soon as possible, but also somebody brought up the fact that, it's not like they're ready today either. They still have things to do, like the survey and figuring out what their partnership of why is, land and everything else. So they're not 100% ready today, but it's whether they would be ready and what makes sense. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But.
When was the Blue Valley study done? Was that 15, 16-ish? I'm feeling like it was a while ago.
We'll have Scott speak to that. I
feel like
it was several
really
years
long
ago.
time ago.
2017, 18.
17. Just because this is going to come up maybe from a staff point of view in terms of what would help us make this decision as we look at priorities kind of for October, is what are the biggest tension points with Blue Valley from a staff perspective, from a community perspective? That we've already talked about the lack of meeting space, that there are some problems that are just organic, that there aren't great sight lines, that the building is problematic from a maintenance perspective. But we can deal with maintenance. It's more from a community perspective about what those tension points are as compared to the other building. Because ultimately, we have 2 communities that want libraries. We're going to get there in the end, but if what we're looking for is how do we best adjudicate who gets resources first, which of those buildings, not which of the communities, but which of the buildings gets resources first in order to facilitate a really great library. That would be really helpful, at least for me, to kind of clarify the priority list, because I don't want it come down to this community is lobbying and this community is lobbying. We're in a wonderful position that everybody wants a great library. We're limited by time and resources. So it needs to be a pragmatic decision about which of those facilities is falling apart faster or is really not serving the needs of the community in terms of volume, in terms of meeting space. And is there something in the interim we could do that is not budgetarily ruinous to facilitate that? Because if it is just about Blue Valley needs more meeting space, they need more shelf space, is there another county building that we could use somewhere else that at least could help meet that need in the interim if we have to prioritize the other direction? That if we need to think out of the box, that there may be some solutions for those communities over the next 5 or 6 years as we get through our to-do list. And so if that's something that at an admin level and with your branch managers, we can start to look at so that we have maybe a little bit more real information going into this decision, I would find that enormously helpful. I don't know about the rest of the board.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are the questions I think those are the right questions.
The only other item I would mention that came up in the meeting was that I think the city pretty much indicated that it will need to hold an election on this, on the financing of it. So that's also, a factor to come in here. It's not like they just have the authority to go and do this or the money to go and do this. They would actually when I say what they would be putting up for a vote wouldn't necessarily bear on us, but to do a new community center.
So a bond issue kind
Right,
of
exactly.
thing, okay. Just overarching, what is the kind of usual legal timeline for that? Do you know, Fred, if there's,
I
what the
think
restraints are?
they could formulate something and get it on the ballot fairly soon. I mean, not in the next 6 months or anything, but fairly quickly.
I think they were talking about,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so but they're starting to do the work here to gather more information. That's why they're going out for more information, but not on the library. The library idea was very popular. But I think they're trying to glean what's the interest here in a new community
For a
center.
community
Right,
building, okay.
right.
yeah, and that's why I think one of the council members suggested that we may not be ready to do it. Let's say we switched it, they may not be ready. And I say may because they don't really know, at least in that meeting.
All right. We'll welcome Kate McNair to the podium to talk about Elementia.
Hi, I'm Kate McNair. I'm the Teen Services Coordinating Librarian. Thanks for having me here today to share with you about Elementia, the library's teen literary magazine. Next slide. We are proud to have published our 19th issue in May. Each issue gets better and better. And let me tell you a little bit about this beautiful magazine. Oh, I forgot some history. Yes, sorry. Elementia is our award-winning literary publication. It's created by teens and supported by Johnson County Library staff. It was created in 2005 by our very own Angel Tucker, now our Youth Services Manager, in answer to a challenge facing the library staff: how to engage young adults in a way that is meaningful to them within the mission of the library. And today, Elementia is more than a publication, it's a process of engagement. It is unique, both locally and nationally, as it is entirely edited and designed by teen volunteers. It is also a free publication, both to submit to and to read. Next slide. So as I talk about this issue, I want to also show you some of the pages of this most recent issue. So if you want to go to the next slide. For this issue, our teen editorial board selected the theme of the unknown, encouraging teen writers and artists to create work that explore unknowns, big and small, and it sparked a lot of creativity. Next slide. We received a record-breaking 922 submissions for this issue. Next slide. Of those, our editors and designers selected 115 for publication from teens around Kansas City, but also as far away as Canada, South Korea, and India. Next slide. A big thank you to our partners at the Johnson County Arts Council who allow nominees for their Shooting Stars program to simultaneously submit their art and writing portfolios to Elementia. We could not make this beautiful magazine without them. Next slide. In May, we hosted our reception online, which allowed several of our international authors to attend. This year's reception featured 12 teens performing their writing, a special presentation from artist Liliana Huey on her artwork, a musical performance from Leawood native Erica Colseth, and a keynote by Edgar Award-winning young adult author Mindy McGinnis. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Johnson County Library Foundation and Henderson Engineers, whose generous support has funded our keynote speaker for the past 2 years. If you missed the event, a recording of it is now live on the library's YouTube channel. Next slide. Our teen editors and designers volunteer hundreds of hours to read and review every submission that comes into the magazine. They selected everything that you see on the page as well as designing the issue. Their careful and respectful editorial conversations and the time and the deliberation that they put into the issue shows on every page. Next slide. I also want to recognize the staff that help make Elementia happen and the managers who support them. They do so much, from managing editorial calendars and deadlines to setting agendas for editorial meetings, doing outreach presentations to schools, mentoring teen editors and designers, and planning the reception. Next slide. I'm also pleased to announce that we have opened submissions for issue 20, and we already have 150 submissions in our inbox. Submissions are open now through February 1st of 2023. Teens are encouraged to submit their writing and art on the theme of cycles at jocolibrary.org/Elementia. We look forward to sharing another amazing issue with you next year. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Are the teen editors, are they all local?
Yes, they are all local. We had a couple that were had just graduated high school, and because we were doing stuff all online this year, they were able to still join us from their freshman year of college. But in the future, and normally, we are all local. They have to be able to make it to a Johnson County Library location.
How does it, where is this distributed besides the library?
It's in all library locations. It's on the library's website. It's also in the Olathe libraries, currently just the Indian Creek branch. And in the past, we also have had them in the Arts and Heritage Center. And then any teacher can request copies and we will send them to their school. We have many teachers, creative writing teachers, that use it in the classroom.
We do have some, you said? And are there some teachers that
Oh,
have
yeah.
requests?
Mhm.
Okay, great.
I've already got boxes packed up for the start of school to head out to schools.
Excellent.
Since this is an international submission, do you send these copies out internationally?
Oh yes, I had much fun filling out customs forms this year. Not something I normally do, but yes, because we send at least 3 copies to everybody who is published in the magazine. So,
David, if I might. First of all, this looks like one of the best issues yet. It's amazing. I can't wait to get into it and read more. But I wanted to ask if you have not yet sent copies for each member of the Board of County Commissioners, I'd be glad to take those and hand them out at our next meeting so that the public hears about that too.
yes, I would love to provide those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The last thing is the board retreat scheduling. And so most of you are familiar, we have a library board retreat usually in October, toward the end of the month. We try to have it maybe a little bit of work time, a little bit of your family time to bridge those gaps, I guess. And there is a doodle poll that's Patty's already sent out, so you may have already filled that out, but looking at what are our options. In the past, we have had it on a Thursday, usually after the couple Thursdays after the board meeting, and so you may see some of those dates as well. If nothing works for folks, we can go back to the drawing board and look in early November, but we usually look at that kind of late fall time, so. Then we'll set the agenda with the board chair and the vice chair, and if folks have things that they would like on the agenda, you can communicate that through both David or Kelly or myself. And then we have also had a facilitator in the past. sometimes we haven't. It just depends on kind of our topics. And at least we know one topic will be the reprioritization, or affirming the priority or reprioritizing. So just to give you an idea of what that library board retreat will entail. I wanted to, before we go to the next agenda item, I wanted to thank my NEO class. I have been attending new employee orientation with them all this week because I am a new employee, but I've also never been through this new employee orientation because we started it after I started at the library. So they've been very kind, and only a few, mishaps here and there with acronym bingo. So just, I thought I won bingo, but it was really Jamal. So next time I go through, I will win, though.
I don't think you have any other positions to be a new
okay.
employee.
You never know.
I don't think we're going to create something higher, are we? All right, with that, we'll head to the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. Let's see, I guess, do we read that part about the county librarian? Finance director certify those payment vouchers. Personal authorizations for May 22.
We just go on to old business.
All right.
Old business.
Or old business.
So the old business that we have is the formation, or the Antioch Library replacement and naming. And so on page 66 of your packet, you'll see a briefing sheet on the formation of a naming committee. And so at the last meeting, we discussed several names, and then after the discussion, we decided to form a naming committee, which will be no more than 3 library board members. And your work will be to review existing naming options and potentially develop new options. Scott Syme will be working with you as far as giving some of that background and bringing in the city of Miriam, and then bringing an option back to the library board for approval.
Do we have any volunteers? I know I reached out to JR and Jeffrey. They said they would both be willing to do it. I don't know. But certainly if anybody else. So, do you want to do it, Mitra? Are you interested? No, Bethany says she wanted to. Okay. All right. So we got Bethany, we have Jeffrey, we have JR. I guess we need a motion on that.
I move to form the Antioch Library Replacement Naming Committee with the following volunteer board members: Bethany Griffiths, Jeffrey Mendoza, and J.R. Riley.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, we've got a committee. All right, so we've got now new business. Is there anything more to add on that? I think we've already kind of talked about it, but Fred or Tricia?
Not on the old business.
Okay. Or as far as on the new business with the Miriam property addendum.
Right. So on page 67 of your packet, there is the action item of the approval of the Miriam property the second addendum. And so you can see we've already done one addendum. The second addendum goes into some other details, a revision to the total size of the building. Originally, we were looking at 16,000 square feet, and we've shrunk that to 15,000 square feet. Revised legal description and survey to account for a roof overhang that was off of our property. And then some updated terms regarding the exterior landscaping that would include design as well. And then there is an amended and restated agreement for shared parking and property maintenance. And these are real similar to what you may remember from Lenexa, where the landscaping and the parking maintenance is not, we share the cost of that. So the revision of terms includes that the outdoor plaza on the main level, any of that hillside landscaping, which would include any kind of shrubbery or trees, and then relocating the the library relocating the city's infrastructure for their holiday tree. That's a main point of their plaza. So there's several other details there, but that's kind of the highlights of that.
Why did we lose 1,000 square feet of building?
Originally, when we did the comprehensive library master plan, we had really planned for that to be 15,000. That's, the actual Antioch Library, as it is today, is much larger than that. But because there is a lot of staff space,
Half of it's unusable.
yeah,
or
friends.
Weird places. or,
Yeah, those type of
upstairs.
things. And so when we looked at the library proper part, that really came to about 15,000 square feet. The 16 we were estimating a little bit, but in final designs, we got it to 15.
I move to adopt a resolution approving the second addendum to property conveyance agreement with the City of Miriam, Kansas, authorizing the execution and delivery of documents and the taking of other actions to consummate the transaction for conveyance of real property.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, and then the next item is on page 96 in your packet. Fred mentioned these earlier. These are two policies that we have specifically related to the library petitioning and picketing. Oh,
Miriam,
Parking first.
the parking, the shared.
oh, I thought we just did that.
Pardon me,
Oh,
it's a
sorry.
separate motion.
There you go. I move to approve the amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, Trish, now you're up.
Okay.
That was easy.
So on page 96 of your packet, as Fred mentioned earlier, the two policies that need to be updated relating to library petitioning and picketing designated areas. And so the two policies that we're talking about is policy 208024, which is picketing and protest, and policy 208025, which is solicitation, petitioning, or distribution of literature in libraries. So you have both of the red line versions there. And as Fred mentioned earlier, the main change is that the county librarian may, on or around advanced voting and election day, direct staff to temporarily close or relocate our designated area if it is too near a polling place.
In a situation where somebody was in violation, would we be the ones liable because it was too close to the polling box? Or would they be liable because they were breaking the electioneering law?
I think we're expected to enforce the space. I think if somebody refused to leave the space, then we'd want to get law enforcement involved on that. So it's not really a question of liability, it's really a question of getting somebody to comply. And it's hard to imagine somebody, not wanting to comply with that. But I would advise library staff to get law enforcement.
And Fred,
Clears
wouldn't
the
the
water up.
Wouldn't
Yeah, I
the
mean,
election
and-
workers there also be responsible?
Yeah, but I mean, not to force somebody to get off. She's talking about a situation where somebody doesn't want to leave, I suppose.
I mean, that could happen at any polling place, though.
Sure, that's right.
Okay, that was more just idle curiosity.
Yeah, but doesn't
how it
this,
works out.
these regulations, don't they allow us now, under these proposed changes, to move it prior to election day?
absolutely.
So it shouldn't be an issue of.
That's right. It's not like they're not
yeah.
going to have I mean, I can't say there wouldn't ever be a situation where there just wouldn't be a spot on election day, but I think, it's possible to move things around and make it work, is what I've been told.
No, this was more just curiosity.
Yeah.
Why we were thinking ahead this way, and so I was just
Yeah.
curious if it was.
I think it's just kind of giving Tricia the right to make these decisions rather than us having to make a board decision on.
I
Okay.
move to
That right?
approve the revisions to ARM 208024 regarding picketing and protest.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I move to approve the revisions to ARM 208025 regarding solicitation, petitioning, or distribution of literature in libraries.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I believe that's it, unless we're missing anything. Does anybody else have any?
No, I just wanted to say that I will not be available for the August board meeting. And with that note, I move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. I get to use my gavel.
I think it just shows, I think they put it in the minutes, but no, I think that's a good, a lot of this is just habit over
Yes.
many, many, many years.